Hi, everyone. Welcome to this Heartwork podcast. Just to give you an intro, I'm Alexis Lee, and Heartwork is a podcast on poetry that reaches the eye, the ear, and the heart. This is really exciting. I have a friend and colleague with me today, and I want to just first start off by giving you guys the quote that kind of inspired this podcast. It's from one of my favorite contemporary American poets. His name is Robert Bly, and he said that the eye reports to the brain, while the ear reports to the heart. And so, as a poet myself, I just really wanted to create a podcast where we make room, scholarly room. As you see, this is not my office, but we have a lot of books from an amazing scholar here tonight. And then Jeff, who I'll introduce in a minute, I'm going to say, Jeff, your background's way better. So
It's the sword. It's the sword, you guys. That's the
yeah,
kicker.
it might be that, but I do think it's the black background, which I thought in my mind was like the underwater, like you could be in like Titanic right now. So, but it's medieval.
Yeah. I have submechnophobia, so I would be freaking out if I was inside
And
the
you know what?
Titanic right
I'm gonna say something. If How would candles be burning underwater? Yeah.
now. No, yeah, exactly. I
So,
would, yeah. That's
so
I'm very envious of your amazing, very talented professors like literary library. Look at that.
I
That's
know
the envy
he's
of
a
everybody who's
theologian.
in the arts. Oh,
Um,
I
and
know, right?
and a
Where else is he?
Shakespeare actor. So I get the privilege of
Yes.
sitting in on as a guest tonight. But so
Mhm.
speaking of guests, I do want to introduce you guys to the topic of tonight's podcast. And we are going to be talking about the noble emotion of poetry. My guest tonight, let me go ahead and get his bio. His name is Jeff Tunke, and he is a Canadian-born writer, creative, and classically trained actor who trained overseas in London, England. He is an advocate for the humanities and longs to see the world embrace the beauty of the written word once again. Yeah, so thank you for being here, Jeff. I'm really excited to talk to you about this. This is going to be interesting for us because I think we need to just start off by establishing the definition of nobility. On
Mm.
our little
Yeah.
notes tonight, we have a few definitions that we can look at, but I'm curious, as a classically trained actor, what you see is nobility and like, even from a historical standpoint. So some words we have are moral excellence, an exalted character, integrity, chivalric character. Can go on and on. But I'm curious about what you think. How would you define nobility?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks, Lexi, for having me on. It's awesome being in the world with other creatives and digging into stuff that's really has a lot of depth, like Shakespeare, but also the written word in general. So this is just your poetry, everything is this is really just a treat. It fills the soul. Um, yeah, okay. So as far as nobility goes, obviously there's kind of a few definitions for it. As far as this podcast is concerned, we're not going to be digging into nobility from like an aristocratic standpoint, the
Mhm.
position of someone's birth.
We could be,
And
yeah,
so
that's true. Yeah.
we could, yes. And so, obviously we know we don't need to give a history lesson, but we know that nobility was, especially in medieval times, was very much in positions of power and even arguably still is today. There is the royal family in the UK and there's other royal families still across the world. But yeah, as far as nobility goes from a literary storytelling standpoint, yeah, I think you just hit it. Chivalristic kind of it's very idealized, and I think there might be a lot of people that in the back of their minds or in comment sections would try and poke holes in this and go, well, actually chivalry's a product of oppression and you know what, to some
Mhm.
extent historically they're right, but in this sense, yeah, we're talking, it is very idealized, but it is also a wonderful thing. My gut thing with this goes right to um speaking about the romantic era of art.
Okay.
So that's kind of that period in the kind of the late 1700s. We bump a little bit into kind of the mid 1800s. I'm trying to make sure I'm getting my parameters right for that. But those writers, those poets, those artists, they were someone who they were people who looked at the chivalristic ideals of the past
Mm,
and wanted to bring that into their modern society. They were people that were facing, the Industrial Revolution and, seeing the stuff on the horizon that was changing. And so yeah, that's kind of my definition of nobility is the good man, in
good
parentheses woman,
man.
right? But the
Got
good
it.
man, yeah, and woman as well. Everyone's included, but
I get
the
what you're
good
saying.
man.
Good man, someone who has
Yeah.
moral integrity. Um,
Hmm.
a colleague,
Yeah.
Wilson or Jacob, shout out because he'll see this, said, I asked him too, I was like, what your thoughts are. He said, this is really, really interesting. Rising above your base major, or, this kind of transcendence, this living through the spirit rather than living through the flesh, which we know,
Mm.
what is it? Is it Galatians? Yeah. Um, I just want to get my scripture right. That's all I care. It's Galatians 5:16. Yeah, so I say then walk by the Spirit and you will certainly not carry out the desire of the flesh. So I don't know. I think of like knight in shining armor. I kind of think of like, uh social rank, but also heroic. Um earnest, a good man, a good man. I think I agree with you. And so
And I think with the good man thing too, the key thing as well is that they remain a good man when they could go and become a bad man.
oh
Is
my
that
gosh,
despite their
absolutely.
circumstance, right? Despite their
Absolutely.
circumstance, it's a choice. Yeah, I think that's kind of the kicker for this. Someone who's
Yes.
truly noble in the sense that we're talking about is that they're facing the dragon. And cool, okay, if we want to use really Arthurian text, okay, the damsel's right there. And that knight, though, has a choice. That knight has a choice. I could turn tail and run, see you later, but they
Mhm.
choose to say, no, I might die in this venture, and I'm going to still fight for the oppressed. I'm going to fight for the meek.
Hmm.
I'm going to be, here I am, send me.
Oh my
Maybe
gosh,
you could
I
say.
just watched King Arthur. It was actually really profound. With yeah, and there was a quote that he said at the end, King Arthur, he said, why have enemies when you can have friends?" And he invites them all at the table. Um,
That's good.
and
Yeah.
I sent you this over Instagram. It was a word of the day. Actually, it was nobility because I was like, just trying to get the definition. And it said what you just said, a mind too disciplined to betray its own values for comfort or approval.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
so I think my question for you going into the arts, and just to shout out this book that was kind of a gift to me just recently. It's really cool, you guys. It's this 1913th century 1913 not century. It was the year
We have
1913.
a 13th century text. Oh
Okay.
my gosh, everybody.
Okay,
Everybody
I was
rob
gonna tell you.
her. Okay, rob her and split the profits with me for the love of all things holy. Come on. Holy Hannah. That's amazing.
Bye guys, we'll see you guys later. We're not gonna do the podcast.
Okay, our
Okay.
location is, yeah.
Um, you never find me. Okay. If you steal this book of knowledge, you will enter Sing Sing College. Whoever wrote that, I love them. So there was that. There was also like people doing poetic equations on like rhythm, and we know meter is a beast, but you gotta love meter when it comes to technicality. But I just wanted to show you guys this book because we're going to be going into the nature of poetry with nobility tonight, and I pulled quotes from this book. So this one, the first quote, it is not sufficient that poetry be emotional. The emotion must be noble. And so, my question for you is, as a classically trained actor, how important is nobility in the arts? It can be, plays, screenwriting, poetry. Like, why does it need to stay?
Hmm. It's an excellent question. My knee-jerk reaction is it kind of goes back to our definition, but it's the reason why it needs to stay is because I think a lot of our artists need to remember that art oftentimes is not for themselves. It's
Mm,
not to be self-gratifying. I think that this is something that art, I mean, okay, let's be real. Anyone who's listening to this or watching this, if they're an artist, they do kind of want to be seen, right?
mm,
That's just the nature of, and I think it to some extent we all do, but I think the reason why nobility needs to stay in the arts is because we need to remember what is it all for? And ultimately what it's for is that whatever medium you're an artist in,
mhm.
your job should be to try and lighten the load of those coming by and seeing your art.
Mm,
Whoever sits in the seat at the theater, whoever comes to the gallery to view your painting, whoever
mm,
reads the book that you put together. Um, I'm not saying that you should do everything, kind of outwardly, but the purpose of being an artist is to move somebody else's heart to something higher, I would
hmm.
argue. So
I
that's
love
why I
that.
think nobility needs to stay in the arts because I think, again, I don't want to sound like a boomer here where like, oh, it's those dang phones, but like we do live in an age where it is about self-gratification. It is about, how good can I look, how many likes
Right.
can I get, all this
Yeah.
stuff. And
Yeah.
ultimately, the art that stands the test of time is the one that still moves your heart. It moves something in us that
Moves
isn't
you
going, wow, okay, yeah. It's
upward. It
not
moves
Kim
you
K going like,
like,
wow, look how great Kim K is. Like no one's gonna
no.
remember Kim K. And I'm sorry, you know what I mean? But what we're gonna remember is that artist that bore their soul into something, and
Mhm.
someone sitting in a pew or sitting in a gallery might go, wow, I've never been able to put what I felt into words, but that person just did. So
Absolutely.
now my load has been lightened.
I
That's
love
when ability needs to stay in the art.
So this kind of lightness comes from this transcendence of moving further up, further in, like C.S. Lewis would say. Would you say?
Laugh about it. Very much so. Very
Yeah.
much so.
I think that's beautiful. I don't know about the transcendentalists too much. I think if I was in a room with them, we'd have a good conversation because I don't know. I was just going to point to, our Christ, Jesus, he is the moral perfection of all. And we're going to talk about that, especially with Revelation, with him coming on the white horse. This is going to be really, really interesting. And we're going to get to three poems tonight. So we got the prologue to Henry V. We're going to look at that.
Mm,
I'm going to have you read that. And we'll dive into that. And
perfect.
then we'll read a contemporary poem called Becoming a Horse. It's kind of surreal. And that's by Ross Gay. He's a contemporary poet. And then we'll go into a poem that I wrote actually that was birthed out of I'm not going to say his name right because I never can. Doyce. I can't. How do you say it? What is the guy that wrote The Idiot? I can't. Can you say it for me?
Dostoevsky.
Thank you so much. Beauty will save the world.
You're right.
So,
Yeah, beauty
to
will
your
save the
to your
world.
point about morality, I think you were kind of hitting on this idea of like it is this upwards of moral truth, deep, deep moral truth that can't be yeah, it can't be robbed. But this quote from the book says the first is of ethical consideration. Whatever theory we may hold about the essentials of art, it must certainly remain true that if art offends against morality, the former must yield to the superior claims of the latter. And I'll just say the other quote they did go on to say is, we can no more divorce what is artistic from what is moral than we can divorce art and truth. And I think we are kind of in this weird, I was born in 1999, so in the 2000s or a little bit further on, art became really like modern and I like certain modern art, but I don't, there's a kind of a sacrifice I think that was had. So my next question to you that I think we started to suffer when art became too modern. Well, I'm kind of going down, but we'll just go to the four. What happens to art and poetry when nobility is sacrificed?
Mm. Well, okay, can I actually just address one quick thing there you just said, just really, really, really briefly, because I think the modernist art lovers are going to come for us with pitchforks and knives if I don't quickly address this. Okay, so just hang on. The, with the modernist thing, I used to be in that same boat, and there's part of me that still is. Okay, so they can come for me with pitchforks. Okay, you guys go ahead. But
Yeah.
I was in a debate with someone when I was living in the UK and they were part of the Morphe Arts group, and we had just been presented with some new modern art at an opening, and I remember sitting there, and I actually got kind of frustrated, and I was like, I was like, what the heck is the point of all this? This is
Mm.
it's a red dot on a white canvas, and they call it oppression. I just go, wow, like no,
Okay.
no, not
I was
right.
thinking
And I
of the
had
guy
someone.
drinking or bathing in soy sauce that you told me about.
Right, yo. So his stuff was quite interesting, though. I've come to understand it more later on. We can maybe talk even like off camera about that, but I've come to understand that one a little more. And I think his work is quite good. But back to this little painting thing, I was kind of like, I don't understand this. And I got frustrated. And I had someone just this girl kind of call me out a little bit. She said, "You're frustrated because you don't understand it." And I was
Mm,
like, obviously, but then I kind of reflected and was like, yeah, that's actually kind of why I'm ticked at it because I don't fully grasp it and it
mm,
frustrates me. I can go look at a Caravaggio and just
mhm.
get blown away by the artistic talent or a Da
Right.
Vinci and go, wow. But this thing has layers to it, you know.
Yeah.
So for the modernist lovers out there, I would encourage you guys to keep on trying to educate everyone because there is layers and there's good layers that can be found. But I'm also still partly in that camp of I don't fully get it. Anyway, okay. Sorry, what was the question
No,
again?
you're good.
What was
What?
the
That's a good
question?
point. I think it does come from a place. What lens are we looking at art through? Um,
Yeah.
Actually, Immanuel Kant, he was a German philosopher, which I did my presentation on the aesthetics of beautiful and sublime, which I think everyone should look at like his work because it's beautiful. He talks about beauty as being something with form and distinct, and then the sublime, we might see with that beautiful romantic painting over the edge, that misty one, I forget the name of it. That guy's
Uh,
looking
the
over the
the
edge.
the the Wanderer above the
Yeah.
seafarer, or the Wanderer, I think it's by oh, someone's gonna shoot me at dawn for not knowing this. It's a German painter. It's the pinnacle of romantic art. I should
Okay,
know
okay,
this.
okay. Because we care and it's on we're recording, let me just get it. Painting.
The
This
Wanderer,
is
right?
by
The
Caspar David Fried.
Caspar David Friedrich. Yes, Caspar David
Oh,
Friedrich.
and how beautiful. Wander above the sea fog. Beautiful.
Oh, okay. It
So
was something.
then
Okay, it wasn't fun.
Kant, he said that the sublime was something that was boundless, something that transcended, even actually could scare us. And so I just bring that into play because I think that we can understand beauty for just everyone can say like a rose is just so pleasant and but if I was to see a gaping night sky that actually like I couldn't even see the end of, it can be destabilizing. And that's another conversation, especially if you have like a mental disorder, which Vincent van Gogh is interesting. I've been looking into him lately. Anyways, I digress. But so I was gonna say, my question for you was what happens when art and poetry, and we're gonna stay on poetry, friends. It's not just gonna be we got to get a little bit honed in here. Like I'm gonna pull up the poems in a minute. But what happens when poetry is, or when it like nobility is sacrificed? And I think that that could be something with like I will say if we're gonna talk about noble emotion tonight, it says noble emotion must not be narrowing or depressing to the soul. Such emotions are fear, anxiety, pressing to the soul. Such emotions are fear, anxiety, discontent, and like. These can find a place in poetry only on the conditions laid down under the preceding head. So I think what it means is like if a poem is grappling with derogatory, disturbing, triggering content, which it's not. I mean, there is a pool of activist poetry, which I don't really I respect it. It's trying to make a point. That's all I'm trying to say. I think this book is saying that if you're going to talk about something that's ugly and not noble, you are going to, in the event of doing so, you're going to make beauty and nobility look more like, does that make sense? Like we need nobility.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, and I think he kind of also hit on something there where we kind of referencing back to your earlier comment there about the Dostoevsky quote about
Hmm.
beauty will save the world. I think that yeah, and maybe you could say and I need to go through a thought exercise with this, but I wonder if also maybe if we lose the noble in poetry, I think we might also lose an element of beauty because I think nobility, beauty, hope, those things seem to be kind of
Hmm.
intertwined a lot of the times.
Hmm.
And I think it's yeah, I think it's important that even if we might want to try and write something that's really going to try and hit home and maybe have some shock value,
I agree
I
with you.
think what the poetry that tends to stand the test of time is that it's poetry that also has an element of something even deeper than just trying to shock someone. It's getting at something a little more layered, and I think that's why we need the nobility
I
still in
agree
it.
with you.
Again, just not to make sure it's not self-gratifying. If you're writing it to try and get famous, your poetry, I'm sorry, is going to be a mile wide and an inch deep. It's not going to be very long.
You know what? I love that you said that. This is actually going to be the podcast for another time with Gabrielle Johnson because I asked her to do the podcast with me on poetry is more than just pleasure, which they talk about self-gratification in here. They talk about that.
There you go.
So, yeah, I agree with you. What noble emotion is. So what I want to, I think that I feel inspired now to go ahead and share my screen, and I want to share the poem I wrote because I think it's going to be a good like segue into what we are talking about. And so we're going to go down real quick and then we'll kind of work backwards. Um so all you need to know is it was just birthed out of this epigraph, and this is kind of a theatrical dialogue poem, and I'm gonna have you have your initial here so you know, and then this is me. So we're gonna go ahead. Can you see my screen?
Just one, yeah, sorry, just one sec here, Lexi. I'm in our document here. I'm just not seeing it in the document.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
sharing my screen right now, so you don't have to see it. You can see my screen?
I will try and it's a little small, but I will look. Here,
Oh,
let's make
okay,
this a little
well,
bigger.
let
Okay,
me
we're ready to rock. Let's go. No, you're good. It's perfect. That's great.
Okay, so you're
There
gonna
we go.
start I will go ahead and
Sure.
say the title and the epigraph. So, have you met the Messiah? Beauty will save the world. Theodore Dostoevsky. Okay.
Dostoevsky. Okay. Who is this prince that insists the preposterous that beauty intends to rescue us? I only see perpetual fires dissolving children's dreams. I only feel death pressing in.
Fair play. I've tasted the same pain until becoming eyewitness to beauty born perpetually from ash of all places. I've seen a single seed on scorched hills, yet you deem the pair impossible.
Impossible. You speak as if beauty holds a name.
Yet what is that refrain that lingers quietly in the air, even now? Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. You can read this part.
Sure. Later that day, the skeptic peered out his window to see a strip of sunlight become the bandage to wrap itself around the fresh wound of an orphan child who had just fallen down in a street of cutthroat commotion, gauzed compassion in a single ray. Of all things, the sacrifice of sunlight.
After witnessing the golden arms stretch itself to lift a fallen, bloodshed proved beautiful for him that day, and nihilism melted away as a fatal sailboat that drifts out saying, I'm leaving. You have no use for me anymore. Not now that you have found the Messiah. Awesome.
Hmm, lovely.
Thank you. Yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts. I honestly think that that can lead us into, yeah, just like I think nobility. We're going to talk about Henry V in a little bit here. Um, I guess that was a theatrical poem, would you say?
Very much so. We got a little stage direction in there. We like it.
I
It's
know.
good.
And so like the interiority of like the brackets is like definitely like behind the scene a little bit. I was thinking, so if theater takes the stage, poetry takes the page. I know that's cheesy, but we'll just go with it. And so in that sense, I wanted to throw it back to you. Thank you guys for listening to that poem. Actually, I've never written anything like that. That was really interesting. And I was just trying to make the point that the prince actually in the book, apparently he's a Christian and he loves beauty. I think he's also in love, so he's like, but the skeptic is questioning him. And I think it's interesting to think about how Christ is that beauty. That's why I bring the sunlight at the bottom. He does find out that like the sunlight, Christ is healing, and bloodshed, the sacrifice of our Lord is healing in the beauty. So I was trying to highlight that. Um, but for you, and you can speak on that if you want to. I guess I wanted to ask you, how can the stage become a noble place? And how in using your whole body and your voice to communicate can the words and the presentation of poetry become something even livingly noble? So that's my question for you.
Oh man, great question. Again, I think I'll go back to my original bit is that, if you do it for yourself, I find the effect on the audience. In my time being on stage, the audience isn't moved as much. If you do it with them in mind, it's
Mm,
very much so. And I know there might be some uh, American actors because the American training is very kind of you bring a lot of your own personal stuff and pour into your character.
mm.
And whereas the English way is very much the opposite. It's let the page wash over you.
Interesting.
Just say the words and think about it. It's very outside of your body.
That was one of the first questions I
And
asked you when I was like talking to you as an actor. I was like, oh, well, how do you separate? Which you don't have to answer this, but I was just asking you how you separate you, yourself with your character, and then the character you take on. And I think, yeah, I forgot what you said, but exactly. But I think you did tell me something really like, it was like, I think you said like characters that feel more like you or like more natural to get into, and then the ones that are more historic or foreign are like kind of fun projects. Correct me if I'm wrong.
oh yeah, very much so. I think most actors will tell you that. The further removed they are from us, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's more of a challenge for sure, especially when you include accent work and you include other things like that. It becomes very nuanced, and you have
Mm-hmm.
to. Often, what I find characters that are far removed, there's a lot of learning involved. And I'm not talking about lines. There's a lot of learning about different cultures, different peoples. You got to really do a lot of listening. You should be doing a lot of listening as an actor anyway. Many actors will tell you that,
And
but
in just life
there's
in
even more,
general. Yeah.
very much so, yeah. But yeah, no, yeah. I've been trained in both. I've trained in the kind of North American way of training, and I've trained in the UK. And there's a very staunch difference between the two. And so yeah, yeah, it's quite lovely. But you're asking,
The,
sorry, it was about
the
your question.
stage.
It
So
was
like you take the stage and how does that platform, I don't even like that word. Let's just say that place become a noble space.
Well, I think there's something really beautiful with the craft of acting specifically. I find that a lot of other art forms, most of the time, you're using either like an instrument, you're using something almost external to yourself to make your
Mm.
art, shall we say, right? Acting is one of the very few artistic mediums where your instrument is you. It's this, whatever the body you've been given, that's it. And it's really beautiful when you work with people and they're able to get their instrument to do things that only their instrument can do on
Mm.
stage. So, I've worked with, remember there's this one person I did a play with in we actually did Henry V actually in the UK, and they're quite a
Mm-hmm.
petite lady. She was very, very petite. And at first glance, you kind of think, oh, she doesn't have that much stage presence. But through the way I guess her body works, she was actually able to use her voice in such a way she could hit the back row of the theater no problem. And actually, because of her unique size, the audience would often assume that she was quite small, and then she would speak, it would kind of jar the audience. And that's something that was only unique to her.
Oh,
So that
wow.
was wonderful. Where I would almost say that there was a certain beauty or certain nobility in that because there were other people in the audience who were petite themselves who felt seen kind of for the first time of like,
Oh,
whoa, we did a whole kind of gender race swap thing with one of the plays we did, and she played the King of France, and it was great, it was lovely, it
so
was
God gave
amazing.
her a
She
really
just
like
came in.
robust voice.
Yeah, very much so. And I was actually speaking from down here. There's a whole thing with acting we can get into with
Mm.
the challenges that
I know. I
a
don't
lot of
want to
women
get
coming
too
in.
far away from the poetics.
Yeah, yeah. But she learned to speak from down here, from
Mm.
guttural, and man, the her she didn't have an exorbitant amount of lines, but when she did speak, it landed with the audience quite well. And
That's profound.
I was personally moved by it. I was like, well, that's very unique. So that was very noble to witness her
That's
work. It was fantastic.
that's amazing. I mean, I was planning on asking you about the your performance at the Globe.
Yeah.
If you want to share anything about that. But didn't you play Henry V?
Yeah, so what our drama school did, our drama school gave us just an amazing gift. I'll try and make this as short as I can.
No,
They
take
gave
your
us
time.
such an amazing gift. Yeah, they gave us such a gift at the end of our drama school. So I hold a Master of Arts in Classical Acting for the Professional Theater from Lambda, And so the whole thing is focused kind of on Shakespeare, some of the Elizabethan contemporaries, but it was Shakespeare was what we really got into.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, well, I mean, Land is so well, it's one of the top drama schools in the world and so well connected. So our voice tutor was actually the head of Shakespeare's Globe's voice department. So we just got like the insight we got into was just unreal. And at the end of the course, they handed us just a beautiful final parting gift, and they let us all go on to Shakespeare's Globe onto the stage right on the South Bank in London and deliver whatever monologue we wanted to. And it was just such a sacred time. And yeah, I chose the I had to. It was the St. Crispin's Day speech from Henry V. So it's,
Mm-hmm.
we happy few wee band of brothers, just this, it's a very well-known patriotic, wow, get the boys ready for war, right? And we're outnumbered, and that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was really lovely. I don't know why. Usually in the drama school training that I was doing, I was often someone who would volunteer to go for things pretty early on. I didn't like kind of sitting back. I wanted to get messy and get in it and learn and
Mm.
just get stuck in. But for whatever reason, I decided to be the last one to go for the performance. So the rest of my class went. And it was just me left sitting there. And for some reason at that time too, I don't know why, a crowd formed in the Globe. There seemed to a lot of people suddenly came there. There was a few tours. There was a bunch of school kids that a whole school
Mhm.
came and sat. And so I had a bit of a crowd suddenly, and I was the last one to go. And I was just, all right, let's do this thing.
That's fun.
And um, and I was a little, yeah, I wasn't even really nervous. I don't know. I was just like, it was just quite a poignant moment. I gave this speech, and I got to I delivered it part of the speech right to this young kid, and he was just looking there kind of scared the whole time, like, oh my gosh, this
Oh,
is
I'm sure
he's
secretly
giving
he
this
was so
speech.
touched. I'm sure he was like, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and by the end of the speech though, I was able to kind of whip up the crowd. I got the whole crowd roused. And these are just random people that have just kind of come into the Globe, and everyone's cheering and hooting and hollering on their feet, like, yeah, right? And I walked off the stage. Well, I didn't walk off, but I walked off my little, like in the center of the Globe off and leaned up against one of the kind of the famous pillars. I sat there and I leaned up against the pillar and I was just vibrating. I was really confused. I was like, I'm not nervous, but I'm just like
Mm.
shaking. And later on, on the very last day of the course, we had one-on-one meetings with all of our tutors because they work with us so intimately. And I asked her name was Tess Dignan. I asked her, I said, the head of Shakespeare's Voice
Hmm.
at the Globe. I said, why did I shake? Is there something that I'm missing here? Like, because I was not nervous. And she said, Jeff, that was your crucible, and you passed.
Mm.
You are
That's
forever
awesome.
now an actor. The rest of your life, they can rip up your degree, they can do whatever, but you did it. You were given a crucible and
Those
you
are
passed
really,
it, and that was just the pure vocal energy of the words. You got into the iambic, you got into it, and it just left your body, and it's a wonderful thing. So that was I'll forever have that as an actor,
that's
and
amazing.
go. This goes it feels weird talking about this, like about yourself as a Canadian. I'm like, oh, I don't like this, but it was an amazing little kind of moment I'll always hang on to
That's
and be like, yeah,
amazing.
yeah, I'm an actor.
I
That
think
was my
like
Globe experience.
that's amazing. And I'm gonna share my screen so I will have you read the prologue to Henry V. And there's a line that you love that I
Sure.
know we talked about. But I think what you said
Mhm.
about kind of putting your whole heart into the words, living them out. I mean, it makes sense you were vibrating, like I was like kind of like shaking your body was like probably in this place of like, I don't know. I can't explain that either. I don't know. But I think that's beautiful that
Yeah,
you have that memory. So let's go ahead and let me share my screen. And can you see? I'll go like this so you can see a little bit closer.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And just to be clear for everyone listening, this is not the monologue that I did on the
No.
Globe. This is the prologue to the play that I took the monologue from. This is
Yeah.
a very famous. Most people will notice the very first line, "Oh, for a muse of fire." That's a very very famous piece of text if you're
Right.
studying literature in any way, shape, or form. That's very
Hmm.
famous.
Yeah. Take it
You want
away.
me to read it? Go through
Yeah.
it? Sure. Okay. Do you want me to go through the whole thing, Lexi, or
Yeah.
what would you like? What would
Yeah,
you?
I got it right here. So just this all the way till play.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Um, Here we go. Oh, do you want me to provide any context for what this is saying so people
Sure.
know what's being said here? Or
Yeah.
so really quick Spark Notes version of this, you guys. This the obviously this is a very patriotic and big scale play that Shakespeare put on. And what he did is he brought out a prologue, a speaker to come on and speak to the audience before the play starts. And basically, what this monologue is about, he basically says, "Hey everyone, so we're about to do this super big play, and but we can't obviously bring you to the fields of France. We can't have real horses on the battlefield. We can't do it. So just come with us in your imagination and go along this epic journey with us. Let the words overcome you. Let yourself wander and really see the forest for the trees, what we're doing here, right? Because it's not going to look exactly like a battle, because obviously we're on stage. But come with us. And it's a very beautiful prologue. It's kind of whimsical. It's like come along with us on
Mm.
this imaginative journey. And it's really funny though, throughout the if you read or I shouldn't say read because Shakespeare's not meant to be read, it's meant to be heard. But if you ever hear the entirety of Henry V, the prologue comes on a few more times, and each time I'll leave it up for you for a fun surprise. But his monologues change and they get kind of a little more loosey-goosey and a little more
Really?
chaotic towards the end. It's almost
Mhm.
like the actors start losing control of the play a little bit. It's very, very fun.
Oh.
Yeah, it's quite fun. But this one's really great. This is a very whimsical one. Okay, here we go. Oh, for a muse of fire that would ascend the brightest heaven of invention, a kingdom for a stage, princes to act, and monarchs to behold the swelling scene. Then should the warlike Harry, like himself, assume the port of Mars, and at his heels, leashed in like hounds, should famine, sword, and fire crouch for employment. But pardon, gentles all, the flat, unraised spirits that have dared on this unworthy scaffold to bring forth so great an object. Can this cockpit hold the vasty fields of France? Or may we cram within this wooden O the very casks that did affright the air at Agincourt? No pardon, since a crooked figure may attest in little place 1,000,000. And let us, ciphers to this great account, on your imaginary forces work. Suppose within the girdle of these walls are now confined two mighty monarchies, whose high upreared and abutting fronts the perilous narrow ocean parts asunder. Piece out our imperfections with your thoughts. Into 1,000 parts divide one man and make imaginary puissance. Think when we talk of horses that you see them printing their proud hoofs in the receiving earth, for 'tis your thoughts that now must deck our kings, carrying them here and there, jumping o'er the times, turning the accomplishment of many years into an hourglass. For the which supply, admit me chorus to this history, who, prologue like your humble patience, pray, gently to hear, kindly to judge our play.
Bravo. Oh my gosh.
And
Okay.
then
So
on comes the whole court comes on and he's has to kind of whisk off really quick and it's a great little bit.
amazing. I don't know what I would love to know your favorite lines. Mine are, I think I love the vasty fields of France, the way that goes. And I'm stealing your favorite lines, and I love these. I love these ones.
Yeah.
Printing their proud
Printing their
hoods
proud hooves in the
in the
receiving earth.
receiving earth.
You can audibly he wrote that on purpose to audibly sound like horses dun
Da-dun,
dun
da-dun. Yeah.
some horses printing their
Like the
proud in the receiving
trotting.
earth.
Hmm.
I think I love the would and know. I mean, he's
Where?
actively
Where's that?
describing Shakespeare. So a little bit up. He's actively describing Shakespeare's
Casks.
that
Is-
yeah so yeah it's a little bit uh yeah uh or may we cram within this wooden O. So that line is just so it's wonderful because he's actually describing where they're physically at. And if you've ever been to Shakespeare's Globe, it is its nickname is the wooden O because it's a circle. It's you're kind of in the round
Oh, and
in
a
it.
cask is
So
a
it's
helmet.
not frontal. It's not a square that you watch the stage. The actors kind of come into it. And on top of this too, the stage extends almost into the audience. You have two different sections in Shakespeare's Globe. You have where the actors are, and then the stage comes down, and then you have a whole giant area where people just stand, and they're called groundlings. They have a little name for them. And to this day, if you go to Shakespeare's Globe, you can purchase groundling tickets, and they're like £5. They're really cheap.
Oh.
But you are not allowed to bring a chair, and you are not allowed to sit down on the ground. A security person will come up to you and say, "No, no, no, no. You stand up. You stand up. You're gonna
Mm.
get the full Shakespeare experience.
You have to
And
stand
then
if
you can
you're.
also, if you're a groundling, you have to stand. And then you have the people sitting in the, there's three rows that you can go sit in all the wooden seats. And then you have like the kings, well, it used to be the queens, but the king's box now.
Oh.
Um, and so it really makes a beautiful dynamic that you can picture this prologue stepping out, and the groundlings are right there at his feet. They're so close, you can almost touch the actor. And so he's giving this in the wooden O. He's speaking to everyone here. We're all here. And yes, we're on the ground, and there were, we've maybe had a few
Hmm.
pints. We're on the south part of we're on the south side of the river, darling. So it's a little bit chaotic, and we're gonna get whisked away on this grand adventure. I love the Wooden O. That's such a
I'll
great
just take some
visceral.
sparkling water. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah, sorry.
I said I'll just take some sparkling water.
Yeah, it's actually oh, that's good.
I'm
It's
just
good.
joking.
Yeah,
No,
yeah. It
that's
was a bit rowdy back in Shakespeare's day.
interesting. What you were telling me, about the awareness of, well, like just everyone's being, this is the stage in the center of the globe.
So no, so it's not quite and people can look this up on their own time. So it is a stage, and there's two giant sort of red pillars. Sometimes they decorate them different colors, but they're kind of
Mhm.
swirling marble red. They come down, and you have your stage in front of you. If you guys were looking at me, they'd have the stage here. You have actually an overhang, so there's actually like a roof to it. So if it's raining, the actors don't get wet,
Oh, oh,
and they
nice.
can hang
But
things
the
from it
people
and stuff
do.
like that. Oh yeah, the people of the groundlings, not the people sitting in the stands. But if you're a groundling, you'll get soaked. It's
So
an
there's
open
a sense
air.
of
It's open to the
nobility
sky.
or hierarchy within the seating.
Oh, very much so. Oh, very much so. Oh yeah, even to this day. Oh yeah, but people more so choose the groundling tickets. I mean, it's full of students. It's also for people, tourists who want the full Shakespeare experience. And I would argue, if you go to London, and you want to go see a show. If it's
Hmm.
your very first Shakespeare show, it is quite fun to go stand in the ground, and you're with shoulder to shoulder with people, and everybody's laughing, and
I would
it's
do a
it's
groundling. I'll probably do that when I
it's
go.
beautiful.
Yeah. I
And you'll
mean,
probably get rained on, you know. But
well,
there's
I'm
even
okay with
like,
that.
there's times even there's a great story I heard at drama school where they were doing, I think they might have been doing one of the Henriade's plays. Anyway, they on one of the performance days a whole school came as well, as far as all the normal audience as well, and one of the cheeky school boys was like, I'm gonna be a bit of a I'm gonna be a bad boy, and he took an apple, and one of the main actor playing one of the Henrys had a shield, and the kid whips this apple at the actor, because the groundlings are right there, and it's visceral. Everyone's got their backpacks on. It's there, and the actor had to block the apple, and then for the rest of his monologue, he gave it right to that kid. And apparently, the
Oh,
crowd loved it. It whipped the crowd up. Everybody was into it. So,
I love that. That's
yeah,
so fun.
that's the Globe. It's a very different theatrical experience, even to this day, than you would then go to see a West End play. It's very, very different.
I love it. I think that there's such a grandness to the state, to the globe. I have not experienced it yet. And then there's an intimacy. Casques, if you guys are interested, I looked it up. It's a helmet. So that's interesting. I actually wanted to bring that to our conversation. There's a lot of symbols that we might associate with nobility, such as a helmet or a shield or a horse, which we will talk about, and a sword. Um, did you see my question five? Can I ask you about that? About your recent endeavor? I wanted to ask you how
I
that's
can't
taught.
remember which that was. Let's look at it. Where is it? Let's see. I don't know
How
where it is. You go
have
ahead and ask it. Sure,
how
though, it's taking
has
a while.
fencing lessons
Hmm.
recently taught you the art of nobility? Even I want to connect it back to poetry in terms of precision, like like with using a sword, like how
Hmm.
we use that in terms of using and wielding our words. I would love to hear that if that makes sense. Yeah.
If anyone says the pen's mightier than the sword, I'm gonna hit them with the sword. That's no, it is true though. I think it's helped. I mean, I picked up fencing. I've done fencing at different seasons throughout my life. I did it when I was a little boy, and then I did it when I was at drama school. I was trained by the indomitable Rodney Cottier, and then have picked it up again recently as kind of a way, just to, yeah, get out of my body, get out of my head a little bit, learn a skill. Even though I kind of already I had a bit of a framework for it already. But yeah, it's I mean it's a maturity thing too. It's taught me to, yeah, have a little more confidence. I can disarm someone if I want to. I know the eight parries that every
Oh,
swordsman knows. There's this eight basic parries, and then beyond that, there's saber parries and other fun stuff. But yeah,
wow.
yeah, has taught you about nobility. I mean, I think it's yeah, it's taught me that from what we're talking about, I would say to never underestimate someone. I think a true nobly good person doesn't judge someone by their first sight at looking at them. And I know that this is going to sound humorous, but I hope people can pick up what I'm laying down. I'm a pretty tall, big lad, and I come in there and sometimes I
You're 5'1",
see these
right?
5'1",
Yeah, you're 5'1".
5'1".
Mhm.
I'm precisely 5'1.5". Thank you. Um, no,
This
but I remember.
time. Okay, you can tell them what your real height is.
Oh no, that's no. Again, I'm Canadian. We don't like talking about
All right, six
that.
five,
Anyway,
everybody.
good.
Okay, go ahead.
There we go. But
And I'm
yeah,
go
I
ahead.
mean, I remember judging a book by its cover and seeing this young teenage kid being like, "All right, I'm gonna fence him and take him," and I got my gluteus maximus handed to me on a silver platter. So I mean, I think it's
Humility. Yeah.
taught me humility. Yeah, there it is.
It's interesting. I wonder what, the prefix is no, and then the prefix is hue, but they both have the same. So nobility, humility. I wonder, I mean, I know that there's a difference between those words, of course, but they probably kind of go hand in hand, which brings me to Philippians 2. Therefore, if you have any encouragement from being united with Christ, if any comfort from his love, if any common sharing in the Spirit, if any tenderness and compassion, then make my joy complete by being like-minded, having the same love, being one in spirit and of mind. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, rather in humility value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of others. And in your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus. And I know that it talks about in the following verses who, in being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage, and he humbled himself in the nature of a servant. But then it goes, he is exalted above in the highest place and that gave him the name that is above every name. Every knee shall bow and every tongue confess that Jesus is Lord. And I love this scripture. I think in it, it says, becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. And I know this is about humility, but I think nobility can be connected to this because, um, I mean, I'm still sitting with it, but I do think, I mean, Christ is so noble in the way that he openly sacrifices his life. I was thinking of this phrase, making a song. And the song goes, I'm like writing music lately and I'm really excited. Danny, my twin, she's making music and she's like doing amazing. But it's like the Father was over the Son when he said, "It's finished and done." And I was in a dark pit when he came and found me, something like that. But then it goes, he was forsaken for our sake. And I was thinking about like that, but I don't know where I'm getting at with this. I think I was just trying to like draw the connection between those two things and then bring us actually into the next question, which is what makes nobility such a rarity in the art poetry scene today? Like, meaning like it's kind of like a treasure that we need to preserve and not
Mm,
lose. In
yeah.
yeah, in an ever more cynicism, apathetic, I guess even desensitized world. Like we live in a world that's going back to what you said about self-gratification, like we want that dopamine hit on social media when we see a pleasant video that, albeit maybe really beautiful, like I love like looking at art, like paintings or things that are being created on social media, but then it's kind of dangerous place to be if we're just looking at it for self-gratification. So rather than like let's say you go to, and I know you like museums, I like them too. I like to go to the Getty, which is in Los Angeles, or the LBMA, which is the Long Beach Museum of Art. But I think when you step into a fossilized place that has taken space to hang art on the wall. And actually, guys, I'm gonna be honest, I think we're kind of talking a lot about art tonight rather than poetry, but we're gonna get to one more poem in a minute. But I hopefully I'm not losing you.
No, not at all. No. Yeah, so sorry, the question, I just want to make sure I
How
didn't
is
get this
it
thing
a
right.
rare why is nobility a rarity in the art scene today? And
Yeah.
and what are some
Oh, I
noble
mean, that's
pursuits?
sure. I mean, that's a very, very, oh my gosh, I hope my alarms aren't going off here. I try and be a little bit scheduled. Alarms keep going off. But no,
Oh, okay, we're good. We're
they
burning
keep going, ba-ding, ba-ding. I'm like, yeah, okay, great. Yeah, I think it's a very nuanced answer to give. I mean, there's multiple layers for why is nobility so seemingly so gone. I mean, I think people might have different definitions of this stuff too. I mean, you can look at the stuff that Banksy's doing right now. Banksy's kind of popping off in London right now. He just had a new piece pop up, and even earlier last year, he had another, or I think it was actually even earlier this year.
Oh, I
Don't quote me
remember
on this, but he
him.
had another piece
Oh,
outside the courts. Yeah. So he's still very active, so that someone could say that his cause is quite noble because his stuff is often very politically charged, or very speaking into certain things, and
mhm.
so yeah, I mean, to an extent there is nobility there, but I think if we're looking at the artistic industry as a whole, why is there such a lack of nobility? Yeah, I think it is because I think people are lovers of themselves. I do. I think that most of the time people aren't thinking about the person coming and seeing their art. They're thinking about they do want to be seen. They want to do it for fame. They want to do it. And I mean, I'm just as guilty as that as anybody else. I mean, I'm an actor. Oh my gosh. I got a slight sense of self
How
godlike
do I know you're
complex like
not
every actor
how do
does.
I
But
know you're not performing all the time?
I'm always performing dialogue. Well, that's why Shakespeare says,
Oh, heck
life's a
no.
stage, and yes, and we are merely players with their entrances and exits, darling.
No.
He's right. We are. Yeah, I think Serene McKellen gave a great speech at the Oxford Press about that, actually. Really, really wonderful, really good insights. He talks about putting on a scarf and how even that in and of itself is a little bit of a performance. We care about what people think going up. Anyway,
Interesting. Hmm.
but yeah. So he says, you're like you're playing, you play characters all day. You have
That's
different
interesting.
characters you
I
play.
have issues with that, but we can just like sit with that.
Yeah,
Um,
I think the more I reflect on it, the more I've come to, really, really agree with him on that. Like, yeah,
but
sure.
I
I
don't
mean,
think you
I'm doing a
mean
little bit of a bit right now. I think because I'm on screen. I'm being very authentic. This is quite really authentic to me, but there is an
yeah.
element of performance that we all do as humans. That's very natural. I don't think it's unnatural.
I think
But
that's, actually my professor over at Cal State Long Beach um with pedagogy, we were talking about teaching. He said that too. He's like, every time you get up and you teach, you're performing. And I was like, I don't know how to
yeah,
feel about that. Because then I taught English 206 last fall, which you know about, and I loved it. And it was hard. Actually, guys, I titled my syllabus Heartwork, which is the title of this podcast. So it's definitely in relation to that. And you know what? I haven't actually shared the definition of heart work that I think is, and I should share it with you guys now because I'll be continuing to share it throughout, but I want to invite everybody that's listening to define heart work for themselves. So, the way after looking at all my students' portfolios, I was like reading their work and I asked them this question, and the resounding response they gave me was that heart work is an honest pursuit. So, anything that they're writing comes from the inmost, like genuine spring of their heart, and it cannot be authentic, like I can't be fabricated and disingenuine. It has to be, and I think that's the beauty of poetry, specifically heart work that reaches the eye, the ear, and the heart. It has to be something that is going to be coming from an honest place, and I think that's what makes poetry like so beautiful because it's vulnerable and it's transparent on the page, but not too much to the point where it's giving every detail. And that's where mystery comes in. And we're going to have my Professor Patty Saber, and she's going to come and talk about mystery later. So I'm kind of giving all these like little snippets, but to that point, Jeff, I was just saying like I remember going in and I would put a quote on the board of the day and kind of break the ice. And I would say if you're going into teaching at a higher level, just know this, like if you're going to teach freshmen, anybody, it's awesome. But your classroom is kind of like a glacier. And then you have to be the ice pick, you as the teacher. You're going to chisel them, and some are going to thaw really quickly and speak throughout. And that's amazing. And then some you have to really work hard to thaw. Be like, hey, and make eye contact with them and get to know their faces and their names so that they can feel like, yeah. But um, where am I going at? Now I'm trailing away. I think I was just saying like, but when you're acting, like going back to Noble or like even talking to me right now, like I know that this is authentic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. It is authentic, but
Do
yeah,
you guys,
there is a
I
there.
don't know, do I believe him? Get the helicopter, get him out. I'm just kidding. Okay, I need to stop. I need to stop. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna go back to my first love, what Shakespeare says. The world's a stage and we are merely players. And so you know what? That's my response to all of this. It's you know what? The bard has spoken. The bard has spoken. But yes,
Right.
I do think that there's levels to it where we are more authentic. There certainly is. And I think there's times in our life when we really do bear all, and there is no acting taking place.
Yeah.
And it's
Genuinity. I think that's something that is really
yeah.
important. And I think when we look at
We need more of
humility,
that in art. More of
we
that.
definitely do. So what do you think are some noble pursuits? It doesn't have to be in the arts. You know, I think that being a poet is really noble. Because you're wielding, yeah, you're a wordsmith and
I
you're
think, I mean, I'm an advocate for the humanities personally, and I know that many people here listening or in that room are very much on the same boat. So I'd say, yeah, anything in the humanities I think is quite a noble pursuit. I think that sometimes in the West we can look at people who are in STEM and all we think is STEM minded, and we
Mhm.
definitely I think we need to come back to our roots and really know that oh yeah, no, the arts have always been a wonderful thing. I would say that but I'll also say, you know, a lot of people in STEM as well. I think pursuing something in the medical field. My mother was a registered nurse with the Alberta Health Services here in Canada, and
Amazing. My
she's one of
mom
those
went
noble
nursing
people.
school too.
My
But
my
then
father was a teacher, so I think that's a
both of my
big
parents
time
ended up
noble.
being teachers. Yeah. Teaching is, yeah. And it's,
Yeah, but I think service. I honestly that I don't want to say I'm going to say the safe answer, but I do think that like any workplace you find yourself in, I do think that that can be a noble pursuit. I think it's about your own comings and goings, your own heart posture, your own way of interacting with people. Are you having a noble mindset when you interact with the customer coming and buying a coffee from you, as you're sweeping the floor, as you're doing whatever it is? Um, yeah, I think you can totally have a noble attitude. I think that's what makes your pursuit noble. I know that's really a safe answer, and yes, there's levels to it. I think a
I like
soldier
it.
on the front line very, very, objectively noble, but I think that anybody can interject nobility into whatever their career is.
I love
That's
that. I was
final
thinking,
answer.
I love, great answer, great answer. I think that I love what you said about like you're going into any workplace, we can be noble. And especially as co-heirs with Christ, like we are noble in our lives. We're not, yeah. And I think valiant, valiante. I was talking to a Colombian student and like we were talking and he was telling me that word and I was like valiant, strong, virtuous, yeah, just rising above your base major. I really like that. I think that's a great way that
Base
Jacob
major.
was saying. Yeah. Um, just high moral character. And like you said earlier, not backing down and choosing the more comfortable option when you could. Um, which I think can connect to poetry because we're not just writing for comfort and we're not just writing cliches. Oh my goodness. We're going into things that are new and that have never been said before to really move hearts. And so, speaking of which, I want to move into this last poem for the night. Um, and it's an interesting poem, actually, but I think it's really lyrically beautiful. And I would love to read it, and then I would love to hear your thoughts, Jeff. So it's called Becoming a Horse by Ross Gay. It was dragging my hands along its belly, loosing the bit and wiping the spit from its mouth that made me a snatch of grass in the thing's maw, a fly tasting its ear. It was touching my nose to his that made me know the clover's bloom, my wet eye to his that made me know the long field's secrets. But it was putting my heart to the horses that made me know the sorrow of horses, made me forsake my thumbs for the sheen of unshod hooves, and in this way drop my torches, and in this way drop my knives. Feel the small song in my chest swell, in my coat glisten and twitch, in my face grow long, and these words cast off at last for the slow, honest tongue of horses.
It's wonderful. Wow.
Yeah, I really like how he, has this like it slows down here. And I love how he talks, he has the repetition of the horses. Very, very
Yeah.
aware of that horse.
Yeah. Very, very good.
I'm
I
wondering
mean, if
what
my
sticks out.
my
Yeah.
my response to this is that you know what, at the end of the day, I mean, I know this might be a metaphor for something else. I'd need to do a little more digging into
No, that's
exactly
okay.
what he's, but on the surface, my knee-jerk reaction is to go, I wonder why we say that a dog is a man's best friend, because truly I'm in the camp where I think a horse is a man's best friend, woman's as well. I think a horse is a human's best friend. You look at what we've gone through together throughout history. And I
Hmm.
think that this is a quite
Absolutely.
a beautiful, yeah, petting the nose, I think is lovely.
Yeah.
That's great.
Especially on the battlefield, like a horse, it carries
Yep.
you through. It
Mhm.
carries you through the threat. And then the horse goes down sometimes and it's a big block of muscle, but it did its job. It tried to carry you through the threat, and you might get pierced too. But what I love about, and I agree with you. I grew up watching the cartoon Spirit, which is a beautiful stallion, like horse. I used to have a horse, stuffed animal. I don't know. Me and Danny went through a horse girl phase. I think a lot of girls go through a horse phase. Um, yeah. Anyways, I always wanted to have a horse. I still do, actually. I still do. But I think that there's something very spiritual about horses, specifically the way that they look at you. And I think in these poems tonight, we're seeing the horse, and we're going to go to Revelation in a minute. We're going to go there. Um, and not keep you guys too much longer, but this idea of putting I mean, a horse's heart is huge, right? I don't know. I haven't like dissected one, but I think it is. And I think like to hear the thrum or the beat of a heart of a horse is beautiful, to think that speaker heard the heart of the horse, to know the sorrow of horses, which is really like chilling. Like, because the heart is like the keeper of grief and the keeper of secrets. And oh my gosh. And then I realized the Longfield's secrets, like my wet eye to his. So then they made eye contact. So there's a lot of intimacy between this horse and this speaker. And I think that you're right. It could definitely invite a second reading. I would say there's a part of the poem where the speaker starts to surrender. Like he had some weapons and he let them down, but the horse tenderized him. And I think the
Yeah.
horse tenderizing him. Hi, Dan. Hi, Lex. Do you want to come? Oh, I can't. I'm in the podcast right now, but you can come say hi. All right. Thanks, Dan. You totally came in on a. No, you're good. No, it's okay, Dan. I want to introduce you. All right. Everyone that's watching this and Jeff, this is my twin sister.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi,
Hey
nice to
guys.
meet you.
She,
All of us collectively are meeting you at once, Danny.
Yes, hello everyone who's tuning in. Lexi has a twin, and
are you Lexi? I'm just kidding.
nice to meet you.
All right, bye, Dan. Sorry guys, that was so random, but you just met my other half. I'd love to hear your thoughts, Jeff, about this piece, because I think I was just trying to get to the point where um such a big creature can really make you tender at heart. And I think even at last, the slow, honest tongue of horses. I mean, I can only maybe connect it with these words cast off, like his own tongue sort of pauses to see the slow, honest tongue of horses, which maybe I'm just actually interpreting this as we go, but maybe in a sense, the noble aspect of the horse is that the horse is speaking to him, and the horse is telling him like, I don't know what he's telling him, but he's telling him kind of like he's kind of arising a song in his chest. And
Mhm.
so I'd love to hear your thoughts. That was kind of just like a off the cuff, like, yeah,
Yeah, I think it again, I don't know the exact what Ross was getting at with this in particular, but if we take it just as a first flyby, yeah, I mean, man, it's there's something kind of sacred about a gentle beast calming you. There's something kind of wonderful about that. If anyone's ever, been around horses and ridden them a little bit, they say so much through their eyes. They really do.
for
They're
sure.
one of the most like, but they're not like a dog with a bark or a cat with a meow or whatever it is. They're very
Mhm.
almost kind of silent. Yes, they'll neigh and whinny and sniffle and all that stuff, but they're very like stoic in some ways too, but they say the eyes tell all. So I think there's something quite lovely, visceral about this that maybe this person was maybe angry or anxious about something and they go for a ride on their horse and everything. Oh, yeah, they get touched and it's
Blessing
wonderful.
by James Wright. I was just going to make a quick cross connection. I know that we know this poem. Share my screen also has this beautiful horse moment. You guys can read this later. It's a beautiful poem. Actually, there's a moment of ecstasis at the end with these last two lines. Can you see my screen? The one?
Yeah,
Okay. With that, if I stepped out of my body, I would break into blossom. And it was after looking at horses, and that's really beautiful. The eyes darken with kindness, which is really pretty. Again, it's the eyes. Um, and going back to this, I was just going to say one last thing. It was the wet eye to his that made me know the Longfield secrets. So then I think of,
that's that.
yeah, this part's really profound because I think of like a horse that's like galloping for a long time or like, going traveling. And that eye, those eyes of that horse have seen a lot of ground. Like they've seen a lot, they've seen the long field. And I think for him to make eye contact with a horse is to know, Man, that horse has traveled a long way. I'm actually reminded of the song. Do you know the song A Horse with No Name?
I don't. I'm
Oh
sorry.
my gosh, no, it's okay. It's a California song. It's really awesome. It's like I've been through the desert with a horse with no name, and it felt good to be out in the rain. And it's like really interesting. And so I think I digress. That I think the horse is a really interesting topic, and we'll just end it with our best man ever. How is Jesus Christ the most noble figure in history? I know this is a really big question, and we don't have to talk about everything from Genesis to Revelation. But
No,
I really want to really pay homage to him because he's the reason I'm here and alive. He's the reason you're here and the reason that we get to do this and everyone listening. He is the master heart worker. And I also just I want to just say like the picture we get in Revelation, um, would you be willing to read that scripture? It's on the doc. It's Revelation 19:11 through 16. The rider on a white horse. It's right
the
after.
rider on a white horse.
Mhm.
Then I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. The one sitting on it is called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. His eyes are like a flame of fire, and on his head are many diadems. Diadems. Not sure about that word. Diadems, diadems.
I think
And
diadem.
he has a name written that no one knows but himself. He is clothed in a robe dipped in blood, and the name by which he is called the Word of God. And the armies of heaven, arrayed in fine linen, white and pure, were following him on white horses. From his mouth comes a sharp sword with which to strike down the nations, and he will rule them with a rod of iron. He will tread the winepress of the fury of the wrath of God the Almighty. On his robe and on his thigh, he has a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords.
Amen. I mean, this is such a like it's kind of scary. I mean, it's like a good, like a reverence kind of like whoa. Like awe, like fear of the Lord is like something that automatically comes when we see this, a picture of what we will see when he comes back. Um, yeah, I guess like we can like just talk a little bit, close on this idea of nobility. He is that picture. And thinking about the white stallion riding on in riding with Jesus in Revelations and how right now he's sitting at the right hand of the Father and he's on the throne and his sacrifice is finished and done and that he has the final say. I think it's so interesting for human poet writer like his mouth comes a sharp sword, so that means that his like double-edged like he what he speaks is so sharp it strikes down the nations and he will rule them with a rod of iron. And I just think like I think it's just so beautiful that his eyes are flames of fire and like I mean it's just so it's too beautiful. It's like I can't even fathom it. But what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, yeah, it's the epic scene we're all waiting for.
That's
The
quite
epic scene
true.
we're all, I hope I can just sit on a mountainside with a big thing of popcorn and watch this whole thing go down. It's gonna be cinema, bro. I'm gonna get
Man,
my glasses out with the 3D like ready. Come on.
I
I'd
know.
like that. Like you think the Battle of the Pelennor Fields is great in Lord of the Rings, bro? This is gonna like wash this. Ew.
Behold, seriously, like, and then just seeing heaven open, like, I can't
Yeah.
wait. You're right. I also agree with you. I
I'll
want
have
to,
a violin and I'll play the Howard Shore's theme song.
you'll be on the side, and then we're going with
100%.
him. We're going with him. Thank the Lord. Okay, yeah, so we'll go with him. But I was gonna say, and the armies of heaven, arrayed in fine linen, white and pure, were following him on white horses. So he has, his fleet of beautiful followers. And may we all be like that when we go with him and we are co-heirs with Christ and pure and noble. And I just think to end this, it's really like just to think like how we, heart work, it's reaching the eye, the ear, and the heart. And like we want to walk out of these podcasts. I mean, I want to walk out of it feeling like there is some type of virtue that was added to life. And I hope that whoever's listening tonight, I hope you feel inspired. I know we kind of talked about a lot of different like things that kind of felt like lofty and high register, but also I hope that it felt accessible and fun. Um, yeah, I have fun making fun of him. I'm just kidding. Yeah, honestly, guys, thank you so much for listening to Heartwork. Again, this is a podcast that reaches the eye, the ear, and the heart when it comes to poetry. And any last words?
Um, yeah. Uh, uh, I got nothing really. If it be a sin to covet honor, I am the most offending soul alive. That's my final word.
The actor speaks. Okay. All right, you guys. Well, thank you. Feel free to listen to this. I'm going to be uploading it to my website and I will keep in touch with you guys next time. There's no like fun little tagline to get out of here, but yes, thank you
We
guys.
need a jingle. Dun, 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 dun.
Hard work, hard work. You gotta live. No, we're good, guys. I'll think about it and just stay tuned next time. All right. Bye, guys. Thank you.